Hello, everybody. Give it a couple minutes, not even 4 o'clock yet. How's everybody doing? As always, if you are here, please introduce yourself or just say here in the comments. I'm going to give about a good 5 minutes for people to join. Now, as you're joining, and welcome, you'll notice that the topic for today's discussion, it hasn't changed completely, but I'm going to add another part to it. And we're going to talk about the July 2020 and Feb 2021 exam. And we're going to talk to some people as well. So welcome. Thank you for being here. If you want to introduce yourself, please feel free to do so in the comments. I'll start in a couple minutes. How's everybody doing? I'd love to hear how you're doing. Maybe you want to give a little blurb about your current status, how things are going for you. Okay, we'll give it another minute or two and I'll begin. Who's here? Give me a little shout out. Tell me who you are. No? Couple minutes until we begin. Thank you so much for being here. So I can't play music at the beginning of this one because last time we had a problem posting part 2 because I was playing Bob Marley in the beginning. So we had some copyright issues. I should have realized that, but I didn't. All right, we're gonna begin. Thank you all so much for being here. You know, these videos and lectures are gaining hundreds and hundreds of views, and I'm so flattered from all the feedback and all the calls that I've been getting for people just looking for help and questions about their situation. So this lecture was supposed to be factors that impact your preparation, and I'm still obviously going to cover that. The first factor, the most important factor, and if you're just joining me now, please introduce yourself. I would love to know who's here. If not, that's okay. But the first factor is always the state of mind. It is definitely the most overlooked factor in terms of how an applicant is feeling, how their confidence level is, their anxiety level, their test anxiety, and so on and so forth. And during these series, and for people in my course or who will be in my course, we talk about that a lot because a lot of courses do not address how somebody is just coping with bar prep. And so I want to take a moment here, and thank you for all those tuning in who will watch later. I want to take a moment and I want to talk to some people and I want to share their story because I've been getting yesterday almost 25 calls just with people looking for answers about what's going to happen with July and feeling really, really stressed out. And I can imagine because I know when I took the bar, as many of you know, I had a 6-month-old. My husband was finishing up medical school. It was a really stressful time for us, but I sat in a chair and I did what I had to do and I studied. And I can't imagine knowing how I felt, and I've been dealing with repeaters now for over 10 years for the most part, and knowing what they go through, or first-time takers, what everyone goes through out of law school and all those emotions, that you have this going on right now. The added stress of having to study from home and having to worry about when you're going to take the bar and be licensed and be working so that you can make money. And so we're going to talk to a law student right now. I'm going to call her. Her name is Anna Erickson. And I'm going to ask her a few questions, and hopefully this can give people some clarity as to, or maybe just feel some connection as to how they're feeling and the emotions that they're experiencing, and we can all come together and talk about resolution, okay? So.
Hello, this is Anna.
Hi, Anna. How are you? Shana with CA Bar Style.
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a pretty crazy time, I'm sure, for you as well. So
It is.
thank you
Yeah.
so much for being here. Hundreds of people will eventually hear this, if not thousands at the end of the day. And the reason for the call is really to get a sense of how you're feeling and talk about the July exam, because there's some news that has just come out. So I want to start with the news. I don't know if anyone has heard this yet. It's not major news, nothing about whether or not the July bar is going on. But there were about 11 law professors that have petitioned the American Bar Association to very adamantly reconsider hosting the July exam. Have you heard about this?
I have not.
Okay, so this came out today. There was an entire, I don't want to call it a petition, but an entire article written asking the American Bar Association for basically asserting 5 or 6 different options for July takers in lieu of taking the exam in July. And
I did actually read, I didn't know how credible it was, but I did actually read something that someone posted about that.
On law, yes. So that is a credible article. And so, well, basically the main options, like I talked about last week in this live series, were number 1, postponing the exam. They were not in support of that because of the still risk of someone getting the coronavirus even months from now. The second option was, I believe, canceling it altogether or offering it online was an option. So why don't you give us some insight? Thank you again so much for doing this. Give us some insight into just kind of how your world was rocked. I know you're in your last year of law school, and do you have a full semester right now?
I do. I actually have an internship that's full-time that I'm doing during the day, and then I'm taking evening classes.
Wow. So are you doing the internship online right now?
The internship, yes. We're all working remote, so the company actually is located in San Francisco. So when everyone received the orders that they stay home and that businesses are shut down, all of the interns are actually working remote. They set us up to have VPN access and be able to work remotely.
Okay.
And so it's been interesting because of, we're trying to learn about the job duties and what it takes to work there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to kind of learn that remotely. And online, we have like online presence, and we're calling back and forth when we have questions for different things, but all of the interns, the whole company is working remotely right now.
Is working remotely. And what are your thoughts on the bar exam? What are you and your friends' thoughts on the exam? Are you guys, have you talked to your friends, your third year friends, about what the ideal situation would be here? I mean, obviously the ideal situation is that you take the bar. How much fear factor is there in the bar not happening at all?
That's super scary, especially for those of us that are graduating in a few weeks. You already have the uncertainty of, first of all, being prepared to sit for the bar, and then also what you're going to do post-bar in terms of finding a job in the legal field, and then what you're going to do permanently. So for that to be delayed or pushed is actually really disheartening and very, I don't even know how to describe it, but just upsetting that, we may not have a July bar. I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
I do think that postponing it, you do run into the same issue, even if they pushed it out a month.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's still delays, what our future plans might be, or for those that are relying on offers after they take the bar, just kind of leaves everyone in a limbo.
Everyone's, yes, for sure. And I think that you bring up a great point, because I think that the state bar needs to get their together and just let us know either way. If the Olympics are canceled, and those were supposed to be in August, right?
Yes.
Then we should know pretty soon what their plan is. Like I said in my first lecture on this, the state bar, California State Bar, more than any bar in the country, Bar Association, is very stubborn. And, throughout my career, I've had applicants fail the bar by a point, and they've come to me and said, can I appeal this? Absolutely not. They won't care. And so I think they're going to ride it out as long as possible. If there was an option to postpone till, let's say, September, October, or to cancel until February, as a bar applicant coming up, what do you think would be the ideal situation for you?
Honestly, I don't know if there is an ideal situation, because if you postpone it until, February, or you postpone it for a few months, I think there's a lot of people that are still waiting on job offers
Mm-hmm.
or want to start working. We have student loans to pay, and I know they're deferred right now, but
we just
want to get our lives going, and it kind of puts a delay in us being able to do that.
Right.
And also for those that may want to take a bar what I actually plan to do was to take the bar here in California in July, and then in February I was going to sit for a different bar. And so I think it just kind of leaves everything up in the air. You don't know where you're going to live, where you're going to work,
Right. It must be very anxiety ridden, because as I was saying at the beginning of this video, before I called you, we're talking today about the factors to preparing well. And one of the main factors I always talk about with my applicants is the state of mind, right? And we're not dealing with coronavirus at the time. We're just dealing with real life, jobs, kids, student loans, right? And being able to get in a good mind space to put that aside and be really confident in preparation. So there's a whole nother component right now to that state of mind. And it's everything that you're touching upon. So I really do appreciate you speaking today. I think that you touched upon a lot of points that a lot of people just need to hear, because maybe, not everyone has a lot of friends in law school, or not everybody is maybe speaking openly about it, right? But it's okay right now to say, I'm scared. I don't know what my future holds, right? I mean, think about it. I'm a bar prep, and at this time, I'm usually getting ready and preparing. I mean, we're still preparing, but it's like, where am I preparing for? I have 18 applicants right now, and I want to tell them so bad, we're going to go for July, right? Because that's what everyone's hoping for. I mean, to be honest, I don't see the California bar examiners postponing this. I see them canceling it. I hope I'm wrong, right? I don't see them going online. No way. That would be a shock to me to see them going online. I doubt they would ever do something like that. And then there was another suggestion about just allowing applicants and graduates from ABA schools to work as attorneys, I believe supervised. But there's all these things that need to be implemented in systems, and I just don't see that happening. Remember, all of these different institutions are being impacted as well, right? And they're losing money too. So for them to come up with a whole entire system, I think would be far-fetched. But if there's anything I can tell you, you will take the bar, okay? You're going to take the bar. You will take it either in some point in the next 6 months or in February, which will be a long time. I will say at the end of the day, it will all work out, and I pray everything goes well for you. Okay, and thank you so much for joining in. Any last
problem.
Things you want to say before we conclude here?
No, I think just for everyone to hang in there. We'll get through it, and
totally.
Like you said, we'll eventually take the bar. It's just a matter of when. And
totally.
Obviously, we want to stay safe and healthy at the same time, and
exactly.
not jeopardize our health to take the bar.
Because there's that going on too, right? There's so many different things. Yeah. Well, thank you so much again. We'll be in touch, and have a great, evening. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Of course. Take care. Thanks again. All right.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So thank you so much, Anna. That was fantastic. Just kind of hearing from her, it was maybe the word fantastic is not the right word to use. It's more gut-wrenching to know that there are so many students, thousands of students right now in limbo. If you are following along right now and you are one of those students, one of the law students that are waiting to know, or repeater, waiting to know if you're going to be taking July 2020, feel free to share your story. If not, I'm just going to get into keep going on the factors. So we're We're going to kind of rewind. We talked, if you're just tuning in, about the future of the July bar. We're getting news and articles every day. There were about 11 law professors that petitioned the American Bar Association to postpone July 2020. So the California State Bar and every bar in the nation is getting pressure to postpone July. And so we should hear news soon. I know the reason I'm starting it off with this is because of the amount of calls and emails I'm getting. And I want to reassure everybody we will have an answer hopefully soon. They're waiting on the NCBEX, who administers the MBE and uniform bar exam, probably to make an affirmative decision as well. So we talk about factors to bar prep. I'm probably going to break this up into 2 parts because we took some time today. Let's see, already, about 16 minutes going over the future of the July exam. But I want to talk about factors of good preparation. I think now more than ever, it is significant to know what you're doing and to prepare well. So we're going to talk about these factors. The first one, I'm going to highlight the top 3, and I think it'll be enough information to get the mind going and to give you some things to think about. And then either tomorrow or Friday, we'll put an alert out as to when I'll continue these factors. So the first thing is the state of mind, the emotional component. It is the most overlooked factor in bar preparation because most courses are not going to work on an individual level. It's just too hard. There's too many students. And so you find yourself as an applicant, whether it's a repeater or a first-time taker, in a course going through the motions. Maybe it's working, maybe it's not. But there's a lot of things that have to connect. And one of the main connections, and that's the factor, is the state of mind, the confidence. Whether you're a first-time taker and it's believing that you can actually prepare well and pass the exam, or it's a repeater and you're a multiple-time taker and you're coming into the exam with baggage. We'll talk about that in a moment, okay? It's really important, and I've been getting a lot of calls about what to do, and I'm going to have to, usually when we talk about the factors, we're not dealing with a global pandemic. So we have to factor that into the factors right now to know, how am I going to best prepare? What should I be focused on? Well, number one, as I've been saying in these lectures, your state of mind has to be in a good place. How do you get your state of mind right now to be in a good place? Well, I think control is really what a lot of us are lacking right now because we don't know when the bar is going to be for July. So a good schedule is key. And it's not just a schedule that's a cookie cutter schedule that everybody else is following. It's an individualized schedule based on your individual needs. Now, I make these all the time for my students. I'd be happy to make them for anyone that's interested right now, because if you feel like you are in control, sorry, I'm chewing on a candy. If you feel like you are in control, and if you feel like you know what you're supposed to be doing every day, whether that's how to balance your law school study right now with some preliminary bar prep, or that's you're done with law school and you're working and how to balance that from home, whatever it is, a schedule is going to keep you in check, and it's going to make your state of mind and your confidence really excel so that you know what you're doing every day. You're holding yourself accountable, or a tutor is holding you accountable as well, so that you can go through the motions and make sure that you are preparing well. Okay? Another thing I want to talk about is the repeater state of mind. I have a lot of repeaters that follow me and a lot of repeaters that take me. The goal is that you don't want to become a repeater. And when you do become a repeater, and I really do believe that most applicants don't ever need to become one with the right preparation, because everybody can prepare well and put this behind them. But what does that even look like? There are a lot of different ways to prepare for this exam. For some applicants, a corporate bar review will work. That's really the minority of applicants for the most part, if we look at the statistics of the California bar exam, and also depends on where you've gone to law school and so on and so forth. But the point is, a lot of what I'm going to talk about right now, of course, is going to belly on my ideology to bar prep and doing this and tutoring over 2,000 or so applicants over 24 bars. The key is, as a repeater, that you don't bring the past baggage into the next prep with you. So a key factor to preparing well for repeaters is to be kind to yourself and to forgive yourself for whatever went wrong previously. I can't tell you how many times in a tutoring session, an applicant will spend the first 20 minutes still talking about how pissed off they are about what happened in the previous exam. It's really important that you try your hardest, and trust me, I have compassion for that, and I know that it's difficult for most because of how much we put on the line to prepare for the exam. But if you bring that into the next preparation with you, it's going to fog your mind, it's going to distract you, and it's going to cause you to have self-doubt, whereby when you're going through the motions of bar prep, and if you've been watching these series, you know how important it is, and I keep saying, if you get something wrong, if you get a low score, you have to learn from it and you have to move on. We always have to keep it moving with bar preparation. So when you are a repeater, the goal is you do not bring that past baggage into the next bar exam preparation. And if you do, it can be significantly detrimental to your prep. So that's really important. So number one factor is your state of mind. It starts from the top, okay? And if you ever find yourself in a program, listen, let's be real. And a lot of what I'm going to say is going to kind of knock corporate bar review in a sense. You have to understand where I'm coming from. I've been a tutor for a very long time, and I've helped a lot of people, and I know what's good prep and what's not. And there's cookie cutter prep, and then there's really good prep, okay? And so when you're in a corporate bar review, you're not going to have anyone, especially right now, that's going to work with you and really care about what's going on, and it's going to strategize with you. So if you find yourself in that position, or let's say you did hire a personalized course like mine or a tutor, and you talk to your tutor and you say, hi Anna, and you say, what's going on with me? I need to talk about what's going on. I'm upset about studying at home, and it's giving me anxiety. Your tutor needs to care. As tutors, we have a responsibility to deal with human beings, and human beings have a plethora of different things that go on. And in order to prepare well, tutors need to care about their applicants, about their applicant's story. They need to, I'm not saying you have to hold their hand every second, because you do need to provide structure and say you need to go do this on your own too, okay? But when those distractions come in, or when the state of mind is shaky, the course should support that for you, okay? There is independence for sure in your preparation, but the course should support that for you, and that is very important. So my point is, if you ever find yourself, let's just say you did enroll in a corporate bar review, and you're a first-time taker, usually repeaters do not go back to corporate bar review. But let's say you are going back to the corporate, let's say you are in a corporate bar review, you can supplement, find a tutor, find someone like me or another course or tutor that can coach you and that can be there for you and get that state of mind into a good place. Okay, factor number two, I'm gonna have some water, and this is a huge one. How's everybody doing, by the way? How y'all doing? I don't have wine today because I'm trying to cut back. I've been having like 2-3 glasses a night, to be completely honest, and I just don't think it's good for me anymore. So I'm gonna try and just work out every day from my garage. And so Shana happy hour will be modified to Shana healthy hour, I guess. If you're drinking something, then enjoy it. All right, next, the second major factor, please take note here, spending way too much time on the law. Now, a lot of courses are going to provide a lot of law, and that's because that's pretty much what they provide is law, is outlines. They're not providing structure in terms of really approach or tutoring or coaching, and so they give applicants tons of substantive law outlines. And if you've been in a corporate bar review, you know exactly what I am talking about. Thank you, Chad. That is so sweet. I'll read the whole thing in a moment. But it's really important that you do not spend too much time on the law. You need to know the law. It is the foundation. So you have to know elements, issues, synonymous. You have to know rules. You have to understand the law. There's no way that you can apply the law or that you can answer a multiple choice question correctly if you do not have the law down and memorized. However, so many applicants spend hours, and right now it's really important that you're not doing this, reading through outlines. It's such a passive experience. It does not really make the law connect. I am a litigator. I have been first chair on over 40 trials, okay? And I can tell you that I never just sat with law. I put it into play. You've got to connect it. You've got to have an approach for it, which we'll talk about in a moment. So the number 2 factor, emotional component, state of mind, good place. Number 2 is you should never spend too much time on the law. Now, what does that mean? Let's give a scenario. So let's say we're talking about criminal law. Everyone loves criminal law. I've only had a few students that have told me I hate criminal law. But criminal law has, let's say, I don't know, 10, 12 categories of law that come up on the exam. It ranges from everything to conspiracy, attempt, solicitation, that's the inchoate crimes and accomplice liability, and the defense is there, to homicide, which is a huge one, and that's due to come up, by the way, to the defenses, to the property crimes, so on and so forth. Let's say, well, if you don't have a schedule, this is what most applicants will do, especially when, how many times have maybe you heard or you've even said to somebody, actually someone told me this yesterday, oh, I've already started studying since December. And I can guarantee you that that applicant is sitting with those long drawn out outlines, reading law, maybe copying law, making outlines over again, making flashcards on the law. And let's say that same applicant, after spending a week on criminal law, now says, okay, I've reviewed criminal law. And then they go to a bar essay. Now, I don't know if most applicants actually would go to an essay. Usually they would probably just go on to more law and just go to torts and the next subject and so on and so forth. But let's say at this juncture, you open up a homicide essay. A good one is February 2007, probably one of the most straightforward homicide essays I've ever seen. 3 calls of question on homicide, and then different types of homicide, and then an insanity defense question. I can guarantee you that if 20 people followed that sequence that I just said, they read through the outline, maybe a couple times, maybe they typed out the law, maybe they made some flashcards on the law, and they felt like, okay, I know criminal law now. I can guarantee you, when they got to that homicide essay, they would miss an abundance of not only IRACs, but key analysis, key conclusions, and structure would be missing. Because when you're just learning law, you have to get into the way that law is tested. You have to get into the different fact patterns and calls of question. And one of the number 1 reasons when we're just, let's just say, talking about essays, number 1 reason that applicants fail bar essays on the California bar is because they miss issues. A missed issue can be up to 30, 40 points in an essay, let's say, that only has a few issues like professional responsibility, let's say, okay? So it's really important. What am I getting at? Number 1, you have to know the law, but you've got to learn it in a way that's actually going to connect. You have to learn it in a way that's going to make you be able to have a conversation about it, so you can say, hey, you know what? If this prosecutor is going to be able to charge that defendant with first-degree murder, they're going to have to prove specific intent, premeditation, which is a mere moment's reflection, and deliberation. You've got to have a connection with the law. Now, in my course, we work on this a lot, and I can't go through all of that today, but there is a way to connect with law so that you're not just reading outlines. Please try and avoid doing that, especially during this time. Sometimes you might think you're getting a head start by going through law. Again, you do have to understand it. But what's even more significant, and this is what I talk about approach. Most courses do not teach approach. Approach means, let's keep with our homicide example, the 9 to 10 different types of calls of question that can come up with homicide, for instance, on the California bar. So when we're talking about homicide, which hasn't come up since February 2008, as of right now, and depending when you watch this video, but as of right now, the July 2020 bar definitely would be a prediction for homicide or criminal law. the way that it comes up, can Dan be convicted of homicide or any lesser included offense, or murder or any lesser included offense, felony murder in the first or second, voluntary manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter. There's so many different ways that that area of law gets tested. And so what ends up happening is that applicants spend a lot of time with the law, but then when they go into the bar, maybe they've done a few essays in their bar prep, we'll talk about practice in a moment, then they're stuck and they don't know where to start and where to stop, where to give good analysis and a counter argument. And so it becomes a domino effect of losing points. And I highly recommend that if you are in a corporate bar review or you're just doing some preliminary studying, and our e-commerce site has been really, we gave a 50% discount, by the way, which will last throughout this entire quarantine period, because you need to start learning approach. You have to learn the ins and outs and ways that these categorical areas of law are tested. By the way, on the California bar, the essays are categorical. Now, I gave a lecture last time, lecture number 2, about how these categories of law have been coming up. So you should have watched that for sure. And if you haven't, then get to it. But you have got to be an issue spotting machine. And by the way, an approach is not some cookie cutter checklist that you can just get off of Amazon. I'm talking about a universe of testable issues in every single category of law, so that you are ready to attack and you know what issues to always go into. If, let's say, they're asking for felony murder in the first or second, you know what issues to consider so that they're still in your queue of issue spotting, and you also know how to deal with defenses and where the call of question and categorical area of law can veer off. I'll give you another example, and I talked about this last lecture, excuse me. Let's say you're in an evidence essay. And in evidence, it's interesting because most evidence essay answers start with hearsay. Well, there's a lot of preliminary considerations that you have to go into before you can even talk about whether an item of evidence is hearsay. And by the way, not every single item is going to be hearsay. So when you're going through structure, and I'll just give you just a preliminary structure of what that would look like, you're always going to go into logical relevance. You're always going to go into legal relevance. If you're in a California criminal case, then you're going to also talk about Proposition 8, and there's a way to do that. Then you always have to authenticate the evidence, probably one of the most highly missed issues, reliability of a lay witness or expert testimony or authentication of a document or a voice. There's so many issues in that universe that you have to consider, right? But then there are issues that you have to always go into in order to determine if an item of evidence is admissible. Learning law alone is not going to teach you that. That is approach. So law, and then you got to get into approach. So don't spend too much time on law, and make sure that you supplement with approach. Now, I have to plug myself because I don't know of any other company that teaches approach. There's cookie cutter approach out there, but I have over 50 essay approaches based on 30 years of patterns of the California bar exam. That is our e-commerce site. It's all part of my program as well. But if you can't afford a full tutorial right now, and even if you can, there are some great bar loans going on, or PayPal credit with, I believe it's 6 months, no interest that they're offering right now. But let's say you already have a course or whatever, you must go, you really not must, but you should go and purchase some of the approaches that I'm teaching to show you how to write for these areas, especially areas that you know that you are weak in, okay? So number 2, do not spend too much time on the law. Make sure you get into approach as well. Now, to back it up, also what you shouldn't do, which brings me to my next point, number 3, and this is the last one, the last factor I'm going to go into today, because I think beyond that it could be information overload. What is a big misconception about bar preparation? A lot of applicants go from the law, tons of law, too much law. By the way, in a lot of those outlines, commercial bar review outlines, a lot of that stuff does not even come up on the bar. On the MBE, it is more nuanced, but even there, the areas of law are extremely repetitive, And when you're going into categories, you will know the law and the nuances, and when you do your questions, you will learn the nuances of the law as well. For the essay portion, I can't even tell you how repetitive it is. Beyond repetitive, the way that they test these areas. But you're not going to see the patterns if you don't know approach. And you're not going to see the patterns if you don't do an abundance of practice. But there's what you want to avoid. Factor number 3. Most applicants go from a ton of law to practice, right to practice. So I can't tell you how many times I get calls, Shana, please help me. I don't know what I'm doing. I sat with the law. I think I memorized by the memorization. We'll talk about that next lecture. That's a whole nother ball game, okay? How to memorize and really what to do there. But I did 3,000 multiple choice and I can't get above a 55% on the bar. Or I wrote 100 essays or 25 performance tests. I wrote a performance test every week of the year and I still couldn't get above a 55, 60. What am I doing wrong? Okay, let's talk about that. So let's just say in the cookie cutter approach to bar exam prep, you learn a ton of law, you sit with the outlines, and then you go to practice. Well, if you don't have an approach, most applicants, this is not all applicants, by the way, there are a very strong group of applicants, and this is not to pin anyone against another. I believe everybody is smart enough. Everybody has the tools. Well, not everyone actually has the tools, but everybody can get the tools. And if you're tuning in, you're already doing something to get those tools to prepare well and pass the exam. But if you are just going to an evidence essay, or let's even talk about contracts, right? Contracts comes up in 3 main ways. What are they? Formation type questions, more terms, remedies type questions, and then pure remedies type questions. Those are the 3 main ways. So most applicants will go to, let's say, the formation question after just learning all that law, and they'll just start writing about offer, acceptance, consideration, because it's the law, right? There's no strategy. There's no approach. There's no, what do I go into first? Then where do I navigate? Then where do I consider? What issues are within that consideration, right? Then where do I stop? By the way, part of approach is also knowing where you give counter arguments. Does anybody know the standard? And if you're in my class watching, you better type the answer. Does anybody know the standard of writing, analytical writing on the exam? Anybody know what that is, what I'm getting at right now? Can someone type it in? Lawyerly. I know I have applicants here. Yeah, let's see. Nope, nobody gave that. Okay. The standard is lawyerly. You're actually going to be read that instruction the first day of the exam. Well, when you're coming out of law school, you're still, for the most part, thinking like a law student. And when you're taking the bar as a first-time taker, your analytical skills are likely still as a law student. And when you're a repeater, repeating the exam multiple times, and no one has sat with you and worked with you on your analysis, California is so strict on the analysis. It's not a joke. You can't just IRAC and then write a scant analysis, or be a storyteller and just give facts, or be conclusory, or go on with run-on sentences. I can't even tell you what I see, okay? And I have to work with applicants on this because I'm a stickler for writing and writing well and eloquent. And it's not that you have to write so much, but you do have to write well. When a standard goes up, and this was the whole talk about the cut score a few years ago and cutting it, because the professors felt like the cut score was too high based on this lawyerly standard for the most part. But they didn't budge, and the California Supreme Court denied it, and they didn't reduce the cut score, and therefore we still have this lawyerly standard. And within this lawyerly standard, you've got to write well. What does that mean? It means you have to write like a lawyer, okay? And so the analysis has to be worked on. And if you don't know how to work on it because you've been sitting with so much law, you've been going into no approach, you've been writing tons of essays, maybe even on your own with no feedback, which is really a no-no, okay, then you could really be stuck. And you want to be careful to avoid the misconception that just doing tons of practice is going to get you where you need to be. Now, there are, as I was saying before, excuse me, I lost my train of thought. There are a group of applicants that do see the patterns on their own through doing practice and do get it going and are able to maximize their points that way. But it is not the majority of test takers, okay? We have seen statistics of a 26% passage rate. It did go up this last bar with the leak. I think it'll go back down. Hopefully it'll stay up. I don't know. Now we have so many other things going on. I mean, we really haven't even talked about how all of this could impact grading for the Feb 2020 exam. I thought about that the other night. All those graders that are impacted and don't have jobs, and now, so maybe we'll talk about that next time, but I want to keep focusing on this factor. So please avoid just doing an abundance of practice. You need to have an approach. Now, it is important to do practice, and my applicants at the end of the day will write and issue spot at least 20 essays per subject. That's a lot. And write a ton of performance tests, but you have to do it in the right way. You have to do it in the way the examiners want it. You have to get the proper feedback on it. A lot of the courses that applicants find themselves in give very scant feedback. The feedback is something like too conclusory or missed issue, and it leaves applicants feeling like they don't really know what they're doing wrong. And if you're a repeater, you probably have felt like, I studied, I spent time with that law, I memorized, I did some practice. Why am I getting 55s and 60s? And it's because just doing everything that I've been talking about and then sitting with feedback sometimes, and I've seen corporate bar review feedback, and I'm not going to knock it too much, but that's only if you're in my course. Then it's like a confidential thing. No, just kidding. But those graders, and I know because I've spoke to many of them that have tried to work for me, they really don't spend a lot of time reading through the essay answer from the applicants or the performance test answer. It's just very scant, very little feedback. And so applicants, unfortunately, hundreds and thousands of them feel like they're doing okay in a course, and they're going through the course and the motions being like, I got a 70 on my PT, I'm good. I got a 65 or even a 60, but I see I missed this. And they go into the bar and they get low 50s and 55s and 60s and go, what? How is that? Why is there such a disconnect, or where there's absolutely no correlation between what I was doing in my bar review and the scores that I got on the exam? So make sure that if you're in, and I'm not going to say any names of programs, although I'm very tempted to, but I won't, that you're in a corporate bar review and you feel like you really don't feel like you know what you're doing and have a good flow going, that you get a supplement or a grading package with a reputable tutor where the graders are going to spend, like my graders spend 30 to 45 minutes on an essay. We posted some grading examples today so you can see the amount of feedback that you should be getting. That is what you're paying for. You should be getting amazing feedback, line by line reading, and then at the end there should be a wrap up to know, why did you get that score? Did you miss too many issues? Was it your rule statements? Are you not writing analytically? What does that even mean? Maybe we'll have a whole nother lecture on that, because that's literally an hour lecture. What is a legal analysis? Again, most law students coming out of law school, repeaters, just do not know. Where did I miss points? It's really important, because there's no way to improve, especially on the written component. We'll have a whole nother lecture on the MBEs in this series. There's really hard to improve if you don't know what you are doing wrong. And what I have found is that applicants that just go through the motions like a robot in a course, and there's hundreds of applicants, nobody tracking you or coaching you or knowing how's your timing, because timing is a whole nother factor, which we'll talk about, okay? Because yeah, you could do all this and you can have a great approach and you can know the law, but you have to do it within an hour on the essays, or 90 minutes on the PT, or 1.8 minute per MBE question. So you've got to be able to execute in the right time. But you can't really get to that until you have the strategy down, the approach down, and the law down, and your analytical reasoning down as well. So make sure, and I can't stress this enough, too many applicants find themselves in crappy courses. And my reputation at this point speaks for itself. So I stand strong when I say it would be really hard to find someone that ever would take my course that would say it wasn't the best preparation possible. There's always things I can work on, and whenever people give me feedback, I go, okay, maybe that's something I need to work on, maybe not. Let me think about it. But you have to be in a preparation that is kicking you know what. And you should be progressing and feeling good about it, okay? It shouldn't just be like you're going through the motions and you think you're doing well, okay? And you think you're doing okay. So just to reiterate, the top 3 factors from the top that we were talking about today, and we'll do more next time. I'll continue this lecture because there's a lot of factors that you may not know. Number 1 is the state of mind. That's got to be in a good place. You support that with feeling good about the preparation, having a structured schedule, making sure that, I mean, if you can or if you can't, have a coach that's guiding you like me, and making sure that there is something that is making you feel, or not something, but the preparation, the more you prepare well, the more confident you will be, all right? That needs to be progressing. It can take a little bit to get warmed up and feel momentum going, but the state of mind is everything. If you're a repeater, try not to let the past exams and what went wrong there come into the next preparation. Number 2, try not to spend too much time on the law. You need to know the law. I'm not negating that. Of course, you have to memorize the law, but that comes later. There's a way to connect with elements without spending hours and hours and hours wasting time. Get out of the law a little bit quicker. Get into approach. Take a look at my approach lecture. It's ca-approach.com. It's up on Instagram. We have a discount going on right now. And I mean, if I would have had these, and I'm not just saying that, go to my Yelp page and you'll see how much people literally, some applicants just study these approaches and end up passing the bar. We have a PT approach as well, but I would just be watching them. They're not very long, and I try and keep it kind of entertaining, and they really, really will help you, and they come with downloadable materials that you can save, outlines that are not very long, but are to the point with all the law you need to know, long outlines, as well as approaches, over 50 essay approaches for every categorical area of law. Make sure you know approach, and then get into practice after you have that strategy, but do it in a smart way and make sure you have the proper feedback for it, so you're not just a number in a class thinking that what you're doing is right and not being sure if it's really connecting, okay? I'll leave about 5 minutes for questions like always before I conclude today. Again, I will continue the factors, and I'll do that in the next lecture. We'll do more factors next lecture. Anyone want to ask? No questions today? How's everybody feeling? We opened it up today talking about, the July exam. Does anybody want to chime in into how they're feeling about the July exam if you're waiting on that? Anybody want to talk about that? Our approach, you're welcome. Our approach materials, enough law. For the essay portion, they are enough. They're all the law that you need to know in that category of law. You will not need, remember something. The essays are 1 hour, and the approaches have a lot of law in them. So if you can, at the end of the day, know all the law in it, then I'd give you major credit, because there's a lot in there, but it is to the point to some degree that it's not anything like a long outline. But yes, it is enough law. And you're welcome, Luciana. I hope I said that right. All right, thank you all so much. It's been a wonderful lecture. Thank again, Anna, for, if she watches later, for her input today. And everyone, I hope if there's anything I can say, is just we got to take it day by day right now. I know it's really stressful for a lot of people right now, but I just wish they would make a determination either way. I know we will all get through it and get to take it at some point. Chad, I can't even tell you how much I agree with you. Trust me, I'm a bar exam owner, and I just want to know as well. I want to know, am I preparing my applicants for July, or are we going to pivot and do something else? So I'm right there with you, and I feel for you. I know that it's so stressful. Trust me, as soon as I hear anything, or if anyone else hears anything, just email me, call me. Of course, whenever the news breaks and we know when the exam is going to be, we will start preparing, okay? just going to make sure there's nothing else. All right. Have a good evening, everybody. Take care, and I will see you. We'll post it on tomorrow if I'm going to talk. I'm not sure yet. I'm just working out some scheduling things with some students that need tutoring. But we'll either be back tomorrow, 4 o'clock, or Thursday, 4 o'clock. All right. Take care and be well.